Rams house. Welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report by Chat Sports. My name is Jackson Durham, and I said this yesterday, but with the trade for Trent McDuffie, it is entirely clear, guys. The F them picks Rams are back in full force. And we're going to talk today about what comes next for this team. What follows the move for Trent McDuffie? What aggressive moves can this team make? Not just trades. We're going to talk about a potential trade, but the F them pick strategy, the ethos, the mindset, I think it applies to everything that this team does. Being aggressive in free agency, the way you approach the 13th overall pick, whether that's trading it or using it on a player that can contribute now, everything is about 2026 and winning the Super Bowl in this season. We're going to get into all of that on today's show. But before we do, a huge announcement. Our first ever piece of merch on the channel, the Heart Snatcher t-shirt, is now officially available for sale. It's been up for about 24 hours. I promoted it on our social medias yesterday, but I hadn't had a chance to jump back in the studio and tell you guys on YouTube about it just yet because of the craziness with Trent McDuffie yesterday. But oh my goodness, my friends. The response to this thing has been unbelievable. It is available at the link down below, chatsports.com/heart. And I know a lot of you guys already know that because 25 of these things have already moved. We're going to get into shout outs in just 1 minute for every single one of you that already went ahead and got one. But I've just got to say, huge shout out to our design team. I think this thing looks fantastic. I wear mine all the time. It is literally getting washed right now, or I would be wearing it today. But without further ado, shout outs for every single person that has already come away with one. Curtis Oliphant, Tyler Cipriani, Ansh Chowdhury, Frank Osha, Adam Flores, Steven Durham, Eduardo Sanchez, Paul Scarbacci, Ron Chang, Luis Robert Flores, Adam Alvarenga, Darren Longoria, Kylie Grunder, my fiance, Sarah Yamashita, Adrian Leyva, Christopher Gonzalez, Melissa Ramon, Edward Zamora, Colt Dickerson, Rodrigo Yara, Anthony Royster, Quentin Cool, Lauren Stern, Rick Meyer, and Rashid Tapscott. You guys are all real ones. Every single one of them has a Heart Snatcher shirt on the way to them as we speak. You could be next, and a shout out will be on the way for you in the next episode of the Rams Report by Chat Sports. That I can absolutely promise you. But without further ado, let's talk about how the Rams can keep adding pieces, how the Rams can continue to be aggressive like we talked about off the top of today's show. And the number one thing that's kind of floating around in Rams communities right now, we talked about it already in a short that we did, a trade for Maxx Crosby. It's feeling like right now, this was filmed on Thursday, March 5th. It's feeling like this news, this notification could hit at any minute. Like Maxx Crosby might move at literally any second. I'm not going to lie, guys. I don't know when it's coming. At the end of the day, I do not know when it is coming. But I do believe it is coming very soon. And I think the Rams are one of 3 teams that really seriously have a shot to land him. The other 2 being the Cowboys and the Bears. And Easton Butler actually sent something out on Twitter. This is the Wyatt Miller one. Can we get the Easton Butler one up? All right, but Easton Butler sent something out on Twitter. And what he had to say was a huge rundown, and I only included the Rams section of it, of everything he's been hearing about the Maxx Crosby news. And he's a Packers reporter, and he said, and a surprise, the hashtag Rams are currently on their F them picks mode, which damn right we are, and are firmly in the hunt for Crosby. The Rams currently hold the 13th pick in the draft. I don't think he's wrong. I think the Rams are absolutely in the hunt for Crosby. I think they probably have an offer on the table for the Raiders at this very moment. Again, like I said, it is Thursday, March 5th. I think at this time, there is an offer from Les Snead on the table for the Raiders. But at the end of the day, is it going to be the one that strikes? because I can't find a deal that really makes a ton of sense for both sides. And I've tried. I really, really have tried to put this thing together. Let's go through a couple of options of things that I have put together for potential offers for the Raiders from us. 2026 first round pick, 13th overall, straight up. That's the number one thing that comes to mind for me. And at the end of the day, if the Raiders' price reports can be believed, while this is what I would want to get it done for, this won't get it done for Vegas. They want to get significantly more value. In particular, they are looking for, in their words, a significant player in return alongside the pick. And the reports are they want 2 first-round picks. I think the pick being 13 could alleviate the need for 2. I think that 2 comes from the likelihood of them both being late first-round picks and essentially being seconds at that point, with the vast majority of teams interested in Crosby likely to be strong contenders this year. But you give them 13, maybe you get that done. But they still want that big-time player. And I think the guy that makes sense for us, and we've talked about him before, and I know some of you guys don't like this, it's Byron Young. Do you want to throw him in this deal? Because then it becomes this. You're giving up the your 13th overall pick, Byron Young, to go get Maxx Crosby, and I think they'd have to throw a 4th back at you. That feels like a lot at the end of the day. And I say this as someone who is more comfortable with the idea of moving off of Byron Young than I think a lot of Rams fans are. I think at the end of the day, something's got to give with our contract situation. It's got to be somebody from that draft class era is going to have to get moved off of, because the team just cannot afford to keep everybody. And I think Byron Young does feel like the odd man out, but this isn't the offer I'd want to get back for him. This is not requisite value or adequate value for Byron Young, in my opinion. Maxx Crosby is a great player, but Byron Young is a really damn good one too. I don't think this values Byron Young the way he should be valued. I think it values Maxx Crosby a little too high as well. Crosby is a great player. I do think he's better than Byron Young. I don't have any delusions about that, But I think at the end of the day, Crosby is also significantly older. He's already coming in on a massive contract. And at the end of the day, that last part about the contract is another huge factor in why this trade may not make sense for the Rams, that we'll get into in a minute. But even if you throw that out the window, I think we're just going to get beat straight up on value here, guys. I think the Cowboys have a very convincing offer also on the table. And there's one real element of this that makes it easier for them to do. Number one, we just gave up a future third, which is a pretty common asset to throw into one of these deals, so you don't have to give up your own pick in these drafts. We did that for Trent McDuffie. They can still afford to do that. And the other thing that they have over our head is the pick right in front of us in the first round this year. At the end of the day, that alone, the ability to throw in that future third, while the Rams are probably going to be pretty reluctant to throw in their first and third round draft picks in this year's class, leaving you with just one pick in the first 100 draft picks. I know we're going F them picks mode, but that is very, very light on the draft, even for the F them picks era Rams. If you want to wind back the clock, they never did that much trading away of draft picks in that era. This would feel like a really good offer if you're the Raiders. In my opinion, if you could get that for Maxx Crosby, I would take that. And I think that offer does ultimately beat what we could throw at them, unless you're going to throw that Byron Young deal, in which case I would be pretty frustrated with the Rams. That's the problem here, right? Like, there isn't a great strike price. And then you encounter problem number 2 with acquiring Maxx Crosby, which is that it doesn't solve the problem you're looking to solve when you trade off of Byron Young. Getting rid of Byron Young in this deal is to solve the problem of we have too many guys that are going to need large contracts over the next couple of years, and we can't afford to keep all of them. You're just adding another guy that already has a large contract. You've just created a new problem for yourself at the end of the day, rather than solve the existing one by moving off of Byron Young and freeing up the cap space that you need. So at the end of the day, I don't think Maxx Crosby makes sense for the Rams. If I'm wrong on this one, egg on my face. Egg on my face, and I hope we don't overpay at the end of the day. But I truly do not think, and I know this is going to disappoint a lot of you guys, that a trade for Maxx Crosby is coming for the Rams. What I do think the Rams are going to do next is viciously attack corner in free agency. I think this is the next step of this strategy, is a ton of spending at the free agent or on free agent corners. Because I look at this depth chart still, and while it is so much better with Trent McDuffie, I still think we've got a lot of room to grow. Kobe Durant is out the door. Emmanuel Forbes is playing on the final year of a fifth year, or on his fifth year option, the final year of his rookie deal, technically. Kendrick is out the door. Witherspoon is out the door. Roger McCreary, are you keeping him around? There are like 3 guys in this room that are under contract, and 2 of them do you really trust as starters? You've got to make some additions, and do you want them all to be rookies, especially with what we're going to talk about later, indicating that it's very unlikely, in my opinion, that the Rams will actually spend 13 on a defensive player. So I think corner has to start in free agency. You've got to do something there. Number 1, the name that a lot of people have thrown at me, I've gotten a couple DMs about this since he was released, Marshawn Lattimore from the Washington Commanders. And I understand why. I absolutely do. Lattimore is a very big name. He's a guy who, for a long time in this league, was a really, really good player, especially during his time in New Orleans. He had some fantastic seasons, was a Mike Evans shutdown at times, just really, really good. However, I think what we saw in Washington with Marshawn Lattimore was 2 issues start to come up for him. Number 1, he's getting older, and age hits you hard as a corner. It really does. You're asked to match up physically one-on-one with athletes who just continue to get better and better every year, and they're getting younger and you're getting older at the end of the day. That is the reality of being an NFL corner. The longevity for that position seems to get shorter and shorter as the years go by. And the other thing I think we saw in Washington was he was a terrible fit for what they do schematically. And what they do schematically on defense is not terribly far off of what we do. They're going to ask you to play a lot of zone as a corner. They're going to ask you to play with your eyes on the quarterback. And that's not Marshawn Lattimore's game. He is a strong press man corner. That's not our scheme. That's not his game. I don't think this makes sense as a logical signing. I understand the desire to go add a big name to this corner room, but I think when you consider what the reality of Marshawn Lattimore is at this point in his career, both schematically and just talent-wise, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Some options that do. Reek Woolen, first step. We've talked about Reek a lot on the channel. He's somebody I am very, very high on overall. I think just the physical tools for Reek Woolen are pretty unbelievable at 6'4". I guess I should say I'm high on the football player. What scares me about Reek Woolen is the non-football stuff, the temper tantrums you sometimes see come out of him, the penalty issues that he can occasionally have. It's never been entirely off the field. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but you absolutely have to consider that that comes into play with Reek Woolen if you were to bring him in. While he does have every physical tool in the book and is a really solid zone corner, you do have to wonder, is he going to cost you a game with a stupid penalty like he almost cost the Seahawks the NFC Championship this year? Because that would drive you up a wall. Jalen Watson. Reunion for Trent McDuffie and his buddy from Kansas City, Jalen Watson, who's also an outgoing free agent. Another guy who's got a lot of physical tools at 6'2", over 200 pounds. Played really well over the last 2 seasons. A little bit of limited work in 2024 before becoming a full-time starter in 2025 and just really stepping into that role beautifully. I love the idea of signing Jalen Watson. I was actually talking to Jake Ellenbogen about this on Twitter today. Shout out to Jake if you're watching. And what I think we both kind of concluded, at the end of the day, it's a great idea. You love the idea of connecting these two again. Are the Chiefs really going to let him go, though? it's hard to envision Kansas City moving off of Trent McDuffie in a trade and then also waving goodbye to their next best corner in the same week. At the end of the day, that is a lot of resetting to do at one position group for a team that's got a lot of other work to do in other areas. I expect keeping Jaylen Watson to be a huge part of their strategy, but if he does hit the market, he's got to be a top name on your list. He absolutely does. Really, really great idea if you were able to reunite him with Trent McDuffie. And then lastly, Jamel Dean of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, someone we've talked about a lot, someone who has long been one of my top targets, a veteran corner, someone who could come in and be an elder statesman. A lot of the other guys, other than Marshawn Lattimore, are young guys and would join a young room, but you have Jamel Dean who can come and bring guys along, be that veteran teacher, although that's another huge part of the reason why you go get Trent McDuffie, the IQ that he brings to your defense, the ability to make sure that everybody else is playing at the highest level possible by being in the right positions. Watson and Dean would be the best moves. It's not particularly close, in my opinion. At the end of the day, Rick Woolen, just a little bit too concerned about what he offers you off the field versus what he offers you on the field for him to make my best moves list. Am I going to be upset if the Rams go sign Tariq Woolen unless it's a massive overpay? Absolutely not. But Jaylen Watson and Jamel Dean would absolutely be my top targets. Now let's get into something I hinted at a little bit earlier to wrap up today's show. The plan for the 13th overall pick. I think Wyatt Miller, shout out to Wyatt Miller, did a great job of illustrating what Sean McVay is kind of thinking here. He captured this quote for us on Twitter. Sean McVay said, "You never want to reach for a need in the draft. It's about getting good players that they have, quote, a lot of like and love for, and that they have a vision for as well." When Sean McVay sits down at night and dreams Sean McVay dreams, I don't think they are of defensive players. At the end of the day, I simply do not think that is the case. I think his vision in this instance, the players that he has a vision for, are not defensive players. At the end of the day, they are offensive weapons. Guys like Makai Lemon, guys like Kenyon Sadiq. Those are the kind of weapons that McVay is looking to add to this team at 13th overall. We've talked about this before, but I don't think he wanted to reach on a need. I think this quote illustrates the exact reason why the Trent McDuffie trade was made, and it illustrates the exact strategy that will drive the next couple of weeks of Rams football and Rams football decision-making. What we just talked about, the way they attack free agency, the way they go after corners there so that they can free up the 13th overall pick to be used on that kind of an offensive weapon, on your Makai Lemons of the world, on your Kenyon Sadiqs of the world, your Jeremiah Loves, if he's available. A lot of different options. And we've talked about Lemon a good deal on this channel. Over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns at USC this season. I think he brings an Amon-Ra St. Brown-like presence to this team, a fantastic running mate for the future for Puka Nacua, someone who would be, at the end of the day, just really, really talented and really, really unbelievable in this offense as a third option in this year. And again, both of these guys, we'll pull up Sadiq's numbers as well, they offer you immediate value. Because again, go back to what we talked about at the beginning of this video. Everything contributes to a process of winning in 2026. Everything you do right now has to contribute to that, or it isn't worth doing, in my opinion. That's the reality of it. Planning for the future can wait. Right now, we're attacking 2026 in what may be the final year of Matthew Stafford's career. I think everything you note the Rams do over the next couple of months has to be framed in that context, and both of these picks can be. Makai Lemon and Kenyon Sadiq are not future contributors. I mean, they are, but they are for now. They are guys that go out and help you win Super Bowls in the here and in the now. Look at Kenyon Sadiq's relative athletic score. If you're not familiar with this scores guys based on every single person that's also competed in the combine at their position. The only thing he's not elite at is size, and I think you best view Kenyon Sadiq as not just a, a traditional tight end, but almost as a receiver. Just a true weapon for Sean McVay and for his offense. And look at how elite his testing is in every category other than size. The vertical's off the charts. The broad is off the charts. He's faster than all get out. Fastest tight end at the combine, actually. And note, you know who else was the fastest tight end at the combine last season? Terrence Ferguson, who joined the Rams with their first selection in 2025. The pattern is there, my friends. The Rams have shown a desire to add game-changing players on the offensive side, at receiver, at tight end. I think it's really between Makai Lemon or Kenyon Sadiq. That's what Sean McVay's quote indicates to me most, that he doesn't want to reach for a need. He wants to add a player he has a vision for. And I think he's got a really clear vision for these two guys. But who do you have a vision for on the Rams? Makai Lemon or Kenyon Sadiq? Let me know with an ML for Makai Lemon or a KS for Kenyon Sadiq in the comments. If you want to go Lemon, the USC receiver, ML. If you want to go Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end, give me a KS. And that is going to wrap it up for us on this episode of the Rams Report by Chad Sports. As always, thank you so much for joining us, spending your time with us today. I've been Jackson Durham. I really appreciate you guys joining, and we will see you in the next one.